It's now been about 100 days that I've had to test out the Bambu Lab A1 Mini. This video is not sponsored, this is something I bought for myself, and I'm going to tell you guys about all of the wins, losses, and well, I'm going to tell you about everything in between. Let's jump in. So, in the 100 days, I said I would make this and that, and I knew there's certain things that I would be making I was like super excited about, but the one thing I never got around to making is the clock that came for free, our free gift or surprise that comes with all of the each A1 Mini. So during this video, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate for you the print process and show you and go ahead and run this in the background while I'm going through everything I have to say about this A1 Mini. Let's begin. So first thing you're going to do is open up your Bambu Handy app, and then if we go to devices, we can hit the little plus button at the top of our screen, and you can see here we got a QR code that will then open up the print, and we can go ahead and say prepare print, and next, and start print. Oh yeah, we got to tell it what kind of filament. We'll just use what we've been using, some generic PLA, and there we go. It's going to go ahead and get started doing the calibrations, the isolate, the noise and vibration isolation, things like that. So once it finishes downloading and starts to do those vibrations, I'll take a quick break and then we'll jump back into it. However, let's go ahead and show you while it's not moving. The first thing I printed is this basket right here. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull it off before it... There we go. This basket right here, it's meant to catch all of my the little, they call them little poops, but all of the waste filament. I actually painted the bullseye because I have a single color printer, but just a little bit of fingernail polish works great. It vibrates a lot. I'll go ahead and take the basket out too while it's doing that. This basket rattles quite a bit, especially when you have little bits of filament in there. I actually printed two of these baskets. The first one is like mesh on the bottom and stuff was falling through, and so I got one with a solid bottom, but also it's got this notch on the edge right here so that when you insert it over there it latches onto that. But that latch, this hole is just too big and there's too much give, so I actually edited it to be a little bit smaller. So now when I put it in here, it doesn't vibrate as much. But that's one of the first things I printed is our little bullseye catch and this little catch tray. If you're looking at doing this yourself, I'd look for one that doesn't have the mesh bottom. Go ahead and get a solid bottom so that filament isn't falling through. And honestly, if you're not worried about like wasting some filament, go solid all the way around, because sometimes filament does slip through the edges as well for smaller bits and pieces. The next thing I printed, I'm not going to be able to show it off too well, but it is this guy right here. It is a handle, a carrying handle. I can grab this and pick the whole thing up, carry it around wherever I need. This whole thing I think is like 20, maybe 30 pounds total, even with our 1 kilogram spool of filament. Makes it super easy to move it around if it's in the way or if you need to, you know, just adjust things or get to it, whatever you need. That handle makes things real nice and easy. After that, one of the things I saw in the first video I saw of the Bambu Lab A1 Mini is that you can 3D print things with like pre-assembled. So this scissor lift is one, but unfortunately it was also one of my first print failures. You can see here we got a lot of spaghetti on the bottom. For some reason that didn't ruin the whole print because the rest of it all came together the other side. So this was the surface on the bed of our 3D printer that got it all sketty noodled, and unfortunately I printed a whole lot of this crap in black, which makes it super hard to film and take pictures of. Black is just a hard thing to capture, but it does actually work. This little scissor lift raises up This knob was printed in place with the threads and everything on this guy. Look at that. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And I was like, oh, this is, you know, like, while it could be like a toy for somebody, sure. I was like, you know what? I could use this as a phone stand. So you know what I printed next? A bigger one! For reference, this is the original size, and I just sized it up to the max. But it's actually big enough that I can actually put my phone in it, and it'll, well, sort of hold my phone up. That was the idea, is that it could hold my phone up, but it's a little too wide, but there you go. It's wide enough to hold my phone. I never use it. It's a cool, neat toy. I should probably just give it to some kid I know from church or something, but yeah, the giant scissor lift with a big old knob on the back, the threads spin and everything, like super cool. And we got wheels on the bottom that turn, and then the top does spin, but try not to because it's not held on very tightly between the two. Looking at like the initial footprint of this clock is going to be much bigger than I anticipated. The next things I wanted were like little trinkets and gadgets and things like that. Things that I could find useful to like throw in a keychain or in my pocket or in my tool bag for work. So I actually ended up printing this guy. This is a super tiny hex bit holder. All it is just you put a little hex bit in there and you can, you know, quarter, or what is that, a 1/4 inch drive or whatever that is. Anyway, you put a little bit, like any standard size bit will fit in there. However, different 3D printing materials shrink and expand differently. And so this one I wrote on the back with a little silver Sharpie, 100%. And I was like, all right, so 100% was too big. The pieces, the bits would just fall out. So I printed another one at 97%, thinking, oh, like 3%, that's not very much. No, it was too tight. I can get stuff in, but getting them back out is too difficult. So I went to 98%, and it is perfect. It's actually in my tool bag right now. Speaking of other tools and gadgets, I got another one here. This one, it is ratcheting. So if I, it's got teeth in there that ratchet. So on this end you got a 1/4 inch drive, and then on the other side you also have it. So if you want to drive it in or take it out, or maybe it's vice versa, either way, super compact. So if you're getting into some really tight space and you want to get a bit in there and you don't want to have to pull everything apart, this could be super handy. However, the ratcheting mechanism is pretty tight, so it never made its way into my tool bag. But it is super cool. It even has little spots right here on either end to store extra bits, so you can have a total of like 3 or even 4 hex bits in there. And then the I think this is the last like tool gadget, also a hex bit holder, driver, ratchet. This one I had the most promise, but is the one that broke. So this one, it printed in multiple pieces and then you put it together. It has a ratchet on the top, and then you got your hex on the bottom, and then you have this little knob here that says it's for loosening and tightening. Unfortunately, the teeth here on the side, those teeth are plastic, surprise, and so when you run into too much torque on it, it breaks the teeth off. You can see right there, the tooth is broken off, so it's not grabbing or twisting nothing there. And the other side is also broken, but it's not quite as catastrophic as this one here, where you can see that white line of it cracking and tearing the plastic. Super cool, not too big, it's about the size of a pen. I kind of like it, but as it's falling apart. It was the one that I had the most excitement for, because it was the most functions or functional tool. I printed with my 3D printer and I broke it. Maybe looking at another filament. I'll talk about filament later in the video. Moving along with fails, we have little battery mounts. So I have the DeWalt tool system, whatever you want to call it. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna print the battery mounts. Well, this one got bumped by a robot vacuum because I set my 3D printer on the floor and my robot vacuum was vacuuming at the same time and bumped the bed. And I think it bumped the bed. I don't know for sure. I have no way of knowing. But this guy printed offset. You can see there. Yeah. Didn't turn out so great. But this also gives me the opportunity to show you one of my first tools that I brought from my shop is just a little flathead screwdriver. Just chose the ugliest one because all it's used for is just prying all of this support material out. If you look on that side, you have these this square support material, and then we broke it out, and so now support material is gone, but leaves that perfect slot for your batteries to slide in and out. So I reprinted it and had no issues the second time, but yeah, my first round they kind of got offset like that. That's a bummer. Next thing I printed is a little toolbox. So this one turned out to be kind of a win, kind of a fail. I'm not sure where I stand on it, but this is my accessory kit, and if you get the light just right, you can see where it tried to write in accessory, but where I only have a single color 3D printer, it just printed it in the same color, just has like anyway. I have all my tools and accessories in here. So I have my oil and grease and a couple extra screws. We have our filament cutting blades, extra cleaning brushes, like all of the things that kind of came with it. It fits perfectly into this little kit here. We've got a slide on here for a cap. The fail here is, yeah, sure, like the logo here, it's silly, whatever, but they also printed plates that say Bambu Lab A1 Mini, so you can but I don't have a multicolor one, and there was no way, I didn't know yet that you can just hey, don't print that part. So they're supposed to go in here. There's this little section here that it just slides into like that, and there you go. And then there would be a label here, but because it's just black, I usually just leave it out because it doesn't actually matter. But that's my accessory kit. Jumping back to tools, I printed a tool mount here. So this one, the first one was for the batteries. You can mount the batteries on a shelf, and now I got this guy here. This one's extra thick because it's to mount tools on. And so the thickness is because some of my drills have the belt clip on them, so it sticks down a little bit further, and so this accounts for that extra depth. However, I thought it was kind of funny that when they designed it, they just put it as, a little bit of you can see that round over there, and then you got the step down and the round over there, rather than being a hole and then a round over at the same level, so you could get two screws of the same length and drive them in. No, if you're going into a thin material, you have a limited backing, you have to get two different length screws. I ended up buying two different length screws. All of my tools are now hung up in my garage on these guys. They're holding up great. I've got circular saws, I've got all of my drills, and I even got a nail gun hanging from it. They work great. They are perfect, and it looks sharp, doesn't it? And just checking in here, you can see it's literally printing while I'm talking. It's not that loud. Of course now it is because it's doing this zigzag pattern. I don't remember if I talked about it in my first video, but I 3D printed a battery holder. So this is a bunch of AA batteries. Worked out perfect. It does have quite a bit of, there was a lot of sharp edges on this, and I wish there wasn't. So I ended up actually using my screwdriver. I'd use the flat end to scrape off anything that stood up, but also this is where a tool like a nail file that you steal from your wife would work for, or if you are the wife or a woman, you might already own some nail files. These type of nail files are fantastic for just cleaning things up because it keeps it flat because it's got that solid cardboard whatever to it. But also I did grab for going inside of the holes here, I grabbed a piece of just sandpaper and I rolled it up and shoved it in there to sand that down so it didn't scratch up my batteries too bad when I do slide them in and out. So I got battery holders. However, I then went on to get a AAA battery version of them, and it didn't turn out very well. I was like, ooh, I don't like those supports, so I'm gonna turn it on end like this. yeah, that was a bad idea. So I turned it on in like this, and so now, if you look, I'm missing a whole arm because of the print direction. It makes it super brittle. It doesn't flex, it just breaks. And I just gave up on this guy. I don't know if we're gonna be, oh yeah, you can see like the little pieces of support in there. It was just such a hassle. I think I got one looking okay. I think it's right here. But it's still not even that great. And even like looking okay, it looks like super beat up and just like ugly. And it's also too small. Oh, it was so frustrating. And so that's what ended up getting me to pull the trigger on my Mitutoyo digital calipers. I was like, all right, so something's off. I need to know how much I need to scale it up or down. So I ended up buying some Mitutoyo calipers. These are top of the line calipers. They are expensive. In the world of digital calipers or just general calipers, these are expensive. I think the retail price is like $160, but they're almost always on sale on Amazon for like $120. Around Black Friday and whatnot, you can find them for as little as like $80, which is a steal of a deal. If you see them for $80 and if you're looking for digital calipers, pull the trigger. I know there's like $30 ones. If you can afford to get like an $80 set, go get the $80 this digital caliper here. These guys are fantastic, and it is super, super accurate, down to like the thousandth of an inch, which is more than I will ever need. But they're just like so nice, so precise, so... I wanted the good one, and the biggest thing about getting the Mitutoyo, which no other digital caliper can offer, is a 3-year battery life. That means if I just set it down in there, I pick it up 3 years from now, it's still going to turn on, and it's still going to be zeroed, and it's still going to work correctly. Whereas if you pick up other ones, like they might last a year, they might last 6 months, who knows, because of the background battery draw of maintaining the memory in your digital calipers. These ones have figured out how to be like super low energy draw. Go ahead and watch other digital caliper videos and they'll tell you the same thing. Mitutoyo is like the premium, the best. There you go, Mitutoyo. This is one investment I definitely recommend. Is even if you're not getting the Mitutoyo brand, you're not ready to spend $80 on a pair of calipers, just make sure you get metal ones. Whatever you do, don't get like the plastic or the composite ones or carbon whatever. Get metal, because metal doesn't shrink and the sizing doesn't change the way that some of the plastic ones flex, and they shrink and grow depending on temperature, blah blah blah. Get a metal one at the very least for yourself. The next thing I printed is actually the lens cap for this camera here that I'm recording you on. I had lost my little lens cap here. This is the proper Sony one, and this is the one I 3D printed. And it works. It literally works. It's got a spring-loaded design to where it grabs on and holds. It worked perfectly. However, there were some fails. I searched Sony E-mount and it just gave me Sony mount digital lens caps. And the first thing it gave me is this. I was like, okay, I'll try that, see if maybe I'm crazy and there's some way it goes on. No, this goes on the back of the camera lens. So when you take your lens off of the camera, that back side, this screws onto that, to the E-mount. And this one works with that camera. That's cool and all. I only have one lens, so I don't really need it. But I did find a lens cap like this, and I was like, oh, perfect, yeah, great. And so I printed it and realized this is for a larger lens cap. And so I just resized it down to, I believe it's a 40.5 millimeters. And this guy fits perfectly on my Sony. So I'm super happy with what I got there. I made that. And so if I ever lose my lens cap again, I can either reprint it or just grab this guy. Super handy, but I don't need this lens cap unless one day I happen to get a larger lens, which I would love to one day, but today I don't have one. Sticking with the camera gear, GoPro. I have a GoPro and I use GoPro attachments for a lot of things. You can see here that because it gives you this like flexibility that a lot of things don't have. But one day I was cranking a little too hard on this little plastic thing and bam! I broke it. It is very broken. So I ended up just 3D printing them. This one is a round one with some like printed knurling. Do you see that knurling there? That's kind of cool. And then this one is just like a regular old thumb screw, just like the one I lost. It is a little bit smaller than this one, like the grips that I can use to grab onto it. However, it still works great. Like, it holds dang tight. It's not going anywhere. And this one I haven't tried yet because I haven't broken another one yet. So I do like this one. I would prefer one like this. It's kind of more of a wing nut style, but this little 4-point style, it works great. It does exactly what I needed. So if you break little plastic pieces and parts, you can get replacements with your 3D printer for pennies. Of course, I still have my very first 3D print, the Zippo lighter. What is this thing called? AGEP Biz. I don't know. It's a little helicopter thing. Yeah, still got that guy. So that's another one I could probably give away to a neighbor kid or something like that. And at this point, I started just kind of like looking for things to print, gadgets and things like that. And it came, the Bambu Lab, the Bambu Lab 3D printer comes with like this little blade and these little screws here to go with this scraper kit. Honestly, I never use it. If I had maybe the glass plate that's like smooth bottom here rather than this textured plate, I might use it, but the textured plate has like this, I don't know if it's Teflon or rubber or something like that, but this scratches it and I don't like that, so I don't ever use it. And honestly, prints come off of it so easily that I don't need this. I have used it before to scrape on things. If I had like, you can see some extra support material here, I just come in here and scrape all that off. But also be careful because the blade on that is kind of sharp, like razor sharp. And then continuing with gadgets and gizmos and thingamabobbers, I printed a carabiner. Look at that. First thing I'll point out is the designer says do not use PLA. I used PLA and it works for a bit. If you put it on something and then just like leave it there, yeah, that'll be fine. It can pull this way just fine. No problems. However, the more you use it, the more you clip it on and off and things like that, and more tension and stress and movement it has. I printed 4 of these and this is the last one left. They're all broken. So they are nice, they are little, they're slim, they're just carabiners that work okay. I would recommend getting a flexible 3D filament. However, keep in mind that not all filament works with the A1 Mini. So make sure you're researching all of that ahead of time. I don't know all of the answers, but I can tell you right now, there are some filaments that don't work with it. We'll talk about that later. Continuing on our gadget train, this thing, it looks funny. It looks like a key, whatnot. I actually would clip this little carabiner to it, and then clip this guy to my dog's harness, and then little bags of refuse, leave-behinds that dogs have in the park. Yeah, the little plastic bag that we always have to fill up and we hold and we're like, where's our garbage can? Rather than walking around with that, the bag goes through here and the knot goes on the other side and you slide that down and then it just holds itself and you can put it on the dog and they can carry it. I don't have to carry their dirty little crap. So that was kind of nice to be able to just put the bags on there until the little clip broke, and so I got a regular cheap little metal carabiner, and now this little plastic ring works great. But of course, when the first one broke, I was like, ooh, I'll just print another one. And so this is the next one that I printed. This is a pretty neat design. If you look here, it uses 2 bars, so you have this side comes down and then across there, and then this side comes just down and in, and it's split all the way down. You can see there, and so when you pull it, it's almost like it's spring-loaded. This one has been old enough or sitting long enough that it's not very good at it, but there we go. This one's a little better. Kind of cool, right? And it's like a full-size carabiner size. It's tough. It hasn't broken yet. I haven't really put it to the test of like how strong it is. I can tell you right now, it's not super strong, considering it pulls away when I pull it. But it's neat. Like you can clip a water bottle to your backpack or something like that. Nothing too heavy, nothing too crazy, just it's handy to have a couple of carabiners around. Next, I started getting into like more of the household handy gadgets. I had a shelf that one of the little plastic tabs that like hold the shelf at the right height broke. And I was like, my 3D printer can print one of those. And so I did. I printed this guy. This is the design I picked out. It's very small. It's, I think they say he said 5 millimeters. Let's see. Good grief, it's slippery. 4.8 millimeters. Stop. So this little button on the back of it that goes into the hole on your shelf is 4.8 millimeters. I think it's supposed to be 5, so I would size this guy up a little bit, but it works. It doesn't instill a lot of confidence because it is so small. Like the one on the shelf right now is much bigger than this, but it works. It's in there. It's doing okay. I'm just not gonna put anything heavy on there. Another handy around the house one is this guy. You might be like, Grant, what the heck is that? So what this is this hole in the center. You'll actually put a screw through it, and then you can screw it into a wall, and then run a zip tie through these little bars there, and then wrap it around something to hold it up, like a bookshelf, or I have a shoe rack that was kind of leaning away from the wall as shoes were building up on it and slowly pulling away. So I mounted this guy on the wall, and the shoe rack is super stable now. Not only is it holding the shoes, it's standing upright, and it's more sturdy than it was before, just with simple little thing holding it up against the wall. It's kind of cool, kind of nice, and I'll probably use these again. Honestly, with the right filament, you could probably even print zip ties. Next, my phone has a pop socket. I love using pop socket mounts on things. I love the pop socket thing here, where I can have it sideways, I can have it upright, I can use it as a kickstand for itself. It's great. And so in my car I have pop socket mounts, and at my desk I wanted one. So I found this cool design. Again, black. I'm sorry, I should have printed it in some other color. And I do have other colors, but I wanted to get through my black first. And so this is a pop socket mount. And well, I'll tell you the first problem right here. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. You put your phone on there, pick your phone up. Do you see what's still here? It holds on a little too well. It holds on just a little bit too well, and it didn't work out perfect, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. I decided, you know what, instead of doing I think this is like a 15% infill, it's super light, hollow, it's sturdy, but it's just too light to be able to pick up your phone from it. So I was like, oh, you know what, I got creative. I took some time to dig into the Bambu Lab software on my computer, and I sliced this whole prop thing right here. I just sliced it. And then I took this bottom section and I scaled it up 40 millimeters, I think it was, and then said 100% infill. So this is literally a brick of plastic. And as you can see, it didn't last because there's so much weight here. As the bed was going back and forth and the head was going left and right, it started to wobble and knocked it off of the 3D print bed when I was printing. However, you can see it still has a little bit there, and I'll be darned if that doesn't work perfect. It's still enough. It doesn't. I almost wish that this had done that. You just set it on there. It's good to go. So maybe one day, if I feel like I need the full support of a proper pop socket style head, I can reprint this, and I'll probably do some support around the base. You can print foundational supports around it to keep it from what had happened is this bottom. And so if it's on a flat surface, it wobbles. The whole base is bowled out because it is 100% infill, meaning there was no place for it to retract, and so the edges just kind of whoop as it peeled away from the bed, and so it's kind of bowl shaped, which means that like when I set my phone on it, it does wobble a little bit. You can see that a lot better. Yeah, it's not perfectly supported. Is it the end of the world? No. It does what I need, and it makes a great paperweight too. But this one, not perfect. I wish the base was like thicker, because even on this one, when it's here, yeah, sure, it looks great, it fits great, but this is the surface of the table. I can't get my charger in there. It's too low. So that was another reason of doing like the raised up base here, and so now I can fit my charger in there to charge it while it's on the stand. I'm really sorry that this is like so disorganized. I'm literally just got everything that I've printed so far and put it on this table here, and we're going through everything. This is supposed to be a bobbin wheel guide. So my wife has a sewing machine, and this little, the bobbin spool something or other on the top of it, it's basically just cone shaped here. You can see this design in the center that's supposed to like hold on to a spool that, or a post that comes through the center, but the center hole is too big and the top cone is too small for like thread and so, like a regular bobbin. So this was kind of useless, pointless, and a little frustrating. I may one day just reprint it myself, redesign it somehow. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do yet, but this is not it. This right here is a fence post cap. I actually talked about it in my last video when I was doing my caliper review, and this was the one that was too small. I ran out of black filament, and so switched to gray, and I had measured the outside diameter and not the inside diameter. So when you're measuring things, make sure you're taking into account like, hey, my fence post needs to go inside of here, so I need to measure the inside diameter. The outside diameter can change from like the product I'm measuring against versus what I have here. So when I sized this up to fit my fence post, it didn't really work out. And you can see here, I did try to do some sanding and stuff before I ended up actually measuring and figuring out, oh, this is the wrong size. Like, I've even printed, I totally forgot about it. I made a whole video about it on TikTok. I made a short on Shorts and TikTok and Instagram. I posted it all over the things. It's a drain cleaner, the little like wiry drain cleaner. I'll show you the video right here. There you go. It worked great. Like, I didn't realize how much hair was stuck in my drain, but it cleaned it right up, and now my drains work all of a sudden. It's great. Also, I don't have it here with me because it's in use, but I printed switch plate covers. So I have a couple of light switches that are wired to cameras, and I don't want the cameras to be turned off, so I just put this cover over it. And unfortunately, the original design had a cover over the side, so I got into the Bambu app on the computer, and I sliced off a section of that, and now I have access to flip the switch if I want to, but I'm not going to accidentally turn that light on and off. I got these creepy articulating skeleton hands. So that's something we 3D printed, where the fingers articulate. Is that crazy? A little bit of... Oh, this one's not bending correctly. There we go. But also, a big old scary black spider for Halloween. My wife is a big fan of Halloween, and so these ones I thought she might like, and I printed these guys for her to put as decorations around the house. Creepy, right? The legs move when you pick it up. Oh, okay. I think the only other one that I missed is this little chip clip. This guy here. These have been much handier than I anticipated, but they just go on like that, and like the ridges on the inside grab onto the bag great. They don't come off. It's perfect. It's a chip clip. I 3D printed the new chip clip. There's tons of things you can do with 3D printers, from, you know, from tools and accessories to little here and there trinkets or guides, and pretty much anything that you can think of that you might need for a around the home. There's so many things that you can, like, oh hey, I need one of these. You can design it and you can print it. Or Bambu has like the Maker World where all of their designs are free. Granted, some of them you can't print for free to then sell it. It's just for like personal use, which has been everything I'm doing right now. But they do have things on there that you can like print and resell just fine. But like there's so many cool things. Like just let your imagination be like, oh, well, what about this? There's going to be like a bunch of designs for that. And every day there are more designs being added. I've added designs myself even. Like when I resized my camera lens cap, I saved that design and said, hey, here's a new design of, you know, a lens cap for this specific Sony E-mount lens. Like things that are just slightly different. Like when I cut off that edge, I was like, hey, here's the new design of like the edge is now cut off. And that's it for like things that I have printed. Now I'm gonna go over all of like the accessories and tools. I have already touched on like the major ones, like my digital calipers here. These guys are fantastic. And I've touched on my little screwdriver. This one's kind of nice because it's got some pretty rough knurling here on this section that I've even used that to scrape things, scrape the plastic, like any hairs or things that have come out. I just use this to scrape it off. I'm not selling any of this, so it doesn't need to look perfect for me. It just needs to function, and so scraping off a little bit of extra whatever isn't usually the end of the world for me. Sandpaper, make sure you have some sandpaper. This is, I believe, 220. Yeah, just some simple 220 grit sandpaper. Works great. And of course we have like a sanding stick. That's another very useful tool. And then storage. Storage is the next thing that I really invested in. So when I buy some filament, like if I want to change out the colors, which I have done a couple of, right now I think I only have one in storage, but I bought resealable vacuum bags. So these guys have a little vent hole here, and you don't have to get like this most expensive one. You don't have to go out and buy like a proper vacuum sealer. This one is literally a resealable. You just slide that vacuum bag, and it came with a full kit of everything you're gonna need. So if you search 3D printer vacuum bags, this guy right here is what I ended up getting. I'll leave a link in the description for it, but it came with a whole bunch of bags. It came with a bag full of silica packets in there to keep your filament dry, because you want to keep your filament dry. And then I've started just collecting filament or silica packets. So if I get something from Amazon, or if somebody sends me something and there's a silica packet in there, I throw my silica packet in there with it. Or I grab, you know, I save those silica packets to throw in here, and then, you know, if they ever stop working, you can then switch out these silica packets for a new one. Then we also have the pump. I was getting a little off track, I'm sorry. So we got this one sealed, and now this little bullseye there, we line up our suction there, and you just pull up, and it starts just vacuum sealing the whole bag. And then once you stop, it'll automatically reseal it. It'll seal this valve here, and you can see here I have sealed in this silica packet. That thing is vacuum sealed. Ugh. Sealed tight. That's nice. And then it's as easy as, you know, just like a regular Ziploc bag. You just like that, and we're open again. This guy's not even running on quiet mode. And then once you have vacuum sealed your filament, it'll look like this. You can see here, it kind of pulls it in all funny, and that's just fine. What you're looking for is this to be a real concave hole there. You're never going to get it sucked all the way out of that, but having it as close to that as possible will help prolong the life of your filament. This filament I have repackaged because I didn't know that this 3D printer doesn't take this kind of filament. This is a ASA filament, which is meant to be like an outdoor UV resistant filament. I was hoping to use it on my fence post cap that I printed, but unfortunately the print bed on the A1 Mini does not get hot enough. So if you're debating, you're like, hey, actually I want to be making this commercially, or I have something specific in mind that I want to be able to print, you may want to consider what filament you're printing with, because PLA is great. It works for most things, but it doesn't work for everything. So one of the things to keep in mind is what this print bed is compatible with. The print bed itself gets up to 80 degrees Celsius. However, this filament requires a minimum of 100 degrees Celsius. So this was not fusing or like adhering to the print bed, and so while it's printing, it's sitting there peeling up and getting cold and falling off, and it doesn't work. So I'm gonna have to find a new home for this ASA filament. I'm not sure the best way to resell filament where it's been opened and used. I don't imagine the manufacturer will take it back. So I got it stored, vacuum sealed, all that. And back to the gadgets here. One of the things that you can have, I might recommend, is a scale. So figure out what weight your actual outer reel is. And a lot of times it'll actually say on there, you can see on this one, spool weight. So you can actually go in and like put this guy on your scale minus the spool weight and figure out how much filament you have left. So when you go to print job here, it already has calculated how much filament you're gonna need, and it can say, hey, you're gonna need this many grams of filament, and you're like, ooh, I only have, 300 and I need 310, so I'm gonna run out before I get there. So either make sure you have filament ready or load a new reel instead. I don't know, however you want to manage that, but being able to track your filament usage, things like that, if you're worried about that, just a simple kitchen scale, that's all that this one is. And lastly, I want to talk about cleaning. Everyone I know has said, oh, how do you get stuff to stick to the print bed is you put some glue, you get a glue stick and you put it on the print bed, and maybe that would help with certain print jobs and whatnot. However, I think I've had 2-3 spaghetti fi prints, never had an issue with doing anything other than just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a paper towel, wipe it down in between prints, and it's good to go. Like literally that's all I do. No maintenance, no super glue, no soap in the sink and the scrubbing. Like it's literally paper towel, wipe it down real quick, and we're good to go to the next one. I've never had any issues with this textured plate. Maybe with the glass plate is where we need things like the glue stick that people have talked about, but I haven't needed anything other than a little bit of 91% isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel. I don't print as much as I thought. For reference, if you are a Bambu user already, I just barely got the notification to re-oil the bed guide here. Where the rails where it slides forward and back. I was just barely told that it needs to be re-oiled today, or maybe yesterday. I was just barely told that it does need to be re-oiled. So I don't print a whole lot, but I'm still super happy, super satisfied with it. It does all of the things that I want it to do, and there's a lot of like other here and there cool things I've forgotten about that I've already printed. And that's it for the gadgets that I've purchased and things that I've printed and whatnot. But there are still like a couple of things that I want. The number one though is a flush trim cutter. I'll have a picture for you right here. So this is basically tiny wire cutters, but on one side it is perfectly flush so that when you go to cut something, whether it's like supports and whatnot, it gives you a perfectly smooth surface rather than having some like jagged pointy surface that you then have to come back and sand. No, you don't have to worry about that. It's perfectly flush and you're ready to continue with whatever your project is. So I really want to get me a pair of those. Honestly, I've made it 100 days so far without needing them. I don't need them right away today, so maybe if I'm lucky, somebody will get it off of my Christmas wish list. One other tool that I do wish I had is a Dremel. It could kind of cross over to most of the tools that I've mentioned in this video, like the sander and the little flush cut nippers that I talked about. And also like being able to get into like really hard to reach spots to be able to sand things. Like the battery holders that I was talking about, I think a Dremel with like a sanding bits on the end would be extremely helpful tool to have to go along with having a 3D printer. Wants, yes. Needs, definitely not, because I've been this long without one, and I'm sure most of us would probably still be fine without one as well. But it'd be nice. And actually that is it for like gadgets or things that I want for my 3D printer. Last thing that I want to share with you is I already talked about filament, how this ASA, the outdoor filament, is not compatible with my 3D printer, and I've been using just like generic 3D printing filament, the PLA filament, up until I bought this one. And then my wife and I have been talking, and we actually want to start printing some cookie cutters. You can print, like, I'm sure other people have thought of this, because this is food grade. It's food grade 3D printer filament. It is a PETG, so a PETG filament that is food safe. So that means it should be dishwasher safe and all that. I'm going to put the dishwasher safe thing to the test to make sure they don't shrink, warp, and whatnot. It ended up actually warping in my dishwasher, so unless you can keep it perfectly flat, I wouldn't send it through the dishwasher, but it is still food safe. You're good to go there. But we're gonna make some custom cookie cutters. You know, you can get my own name, I can get a dog, or, you know, print a little pumpkin for Halloween. I can do a Christmas tree for Christmas, a turkey for Thanksgiving, you know, a heart for Valentine's. You can print all of your cookie cutters. This will be fantastic for little gadgets like that, and you can get food grade 3D printer filament. I went with just a gray, but you can get whatever color you want. I haven't opened this one yet because we're not ready to start printing those yet. But like, the world of 3D printing is huge. If you're wanting to go bigger, the biggest downsides I've run into this so far is the 3D print bed size. The print bed is only about 7 inches in each direction, so you can go 7 inches up, back, and sideways. So that's going to be like the first obstacle you run into. Most 3D printers, and if you upgrade from like the A1 Mini to the A1, I think it is, you go to a 10-inch print bed, which I know it's only 3 inches, but it's 3 inches in every direction, which makes a big difference. We're talking about the difference of printing a glove versus being able to print an entire helmet. That's a big difference. And they also have ones that have like enclosures to keep like dust and humidity out. So if you're in a shop or you have pets and things like that and you want to protect this, they do have where the beds can be protected. There's tons of different options when it comes to 3D printers, but I went with the smallest one because honestly I haven't needed to print anything that was bigger. And I know that I told you guys that I would, at the end of this video, I would tell you more about like filament and things like that, but after 100 days, I wouldn't call myself an expert. I wouldn't say I know a whole ton about it. What I can tell you is Bambu Lab on their website has this little chart here that says, hey, you can filament that is supported with this model, not all models, just this A1 Mini, is the PLA, PETG, TPU, and PVA are ideal for this machine. All of the other ones are not recommended, but keep in mind, if you want to use some of those other ones, like I actually wanted to use ASA, if I needed, I felt I was like, oh, you know what, I'm willing to pay the extra to upgrade to ASA. The other Bambu Lab printers do have a print bed that gets hot enough and the nozzle gets hot enough to handle those other ones. So A1 Mini is very much the entry-level version, but if you want to step up to like the A1 or the P1S, which is basically like the top of the line one, it just has a smaller touchscreen, like any of the other ones, or if you really want to go for the top of the line, high speed, fanciest one, the X1, all of those ones are more advanced, have bigger print beds, but also can handle different filament types. So right here, the filament types that are supported, like I said before, PLA, PETG, TPU, and PVA. What those mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that PLA is brittle, PETG is a little bit more flexible. I haven't worked with TPU and PVA, haven't looked into either of those yet, but TPU is a flexible type filament, kind of like elastic or rubber or silicone. It's often used for things that need to be flexible and absorb an impact. The picture on Google says that it is like a water bottle that you squeeze. So PVA is a soft biodegradable 3D printer material. I'm not sure what situations you'd actually want to build something out of it, unless it's like, hey, I'm going to put this in here and then build something over it and then use water to dissolve it, because it is water soluble apparently. So that's something to keep in mind, is if you're using PVA or polyvinyl alcohol, it is a soft biodegradable polymer that is highly sensitive to moisture. Not sure what situations you would want to use those ones. PLA, PETG, and TPU are pretty easy to pick out. Like, hey, PLA is I need something strong and rigid. PETG is strong but somewhat flexible. TPU is flexible, soft, malleable, but also able to maintain its shape. And then PVA is a dissolvable version of filament. So those are the ones that that are ideal for the A1 Mini. There's tons of really cool filaments out there. This is very much the entry level, base level, hobbyist. We keep it easy filament types. So keep that in mind when you are looking to buy a 3D printer, is the filament types that it is compatible with. And here is the ones for Bambu. I'll also have a link that takes you to their like full tech spec page that breaks down like what size it is, what weight, how much it weighs. Like honestly, only like 12 pounds for the whole machine. Like, not bad. Let me go ahead and clean up here, and hopefully this print job will be done here soon. It looks like it was about a 2-hour print, taking up that full print bed, so it's taking its sweet time. Granted, faster than most other 3D printers, but that is real time. Like, we're not fast forwarding. You hear me talking, it's right here. We're right next to each other. Let me go ahead and clean up my desk here, and we'll get back to a final thoughts and wrap up. And it's done. Of course, you die right as I was trying to hit record, so I'm glad I was able to catch it on my phone. All right, and let's go ahead and pop this guy off. There it is. It's much bigger than I anticipated. Got a few little hairs here and there. I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up, but like between the letters, there's a couple of little strings. But now I just gotta hit that with a little bit of alcohol and a towel, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and assemble our clock here real quick. Well, there's our clock. There's that's kind of everything. I think I've covered it all. I've covered all of the things that I printed, all of the mistakes I've made. And if you're on the fence about getting a 3D printer, I think something small like this would be a really good entry point for pretty much anyone. If you're looking to get a 3D printer or to like just get introduced into the 3D printing space, I think this is a really great place to get started. Is the Bambu Lab A1 Mini. But if you have a little bit more money, you're like, you know what, I really want to like step into it, not just like dip my toes, not just kind of hobbyist dabble in it. Like if you really want to do 3D printing, you're like, hey, I see a lot of people making a lot of money out there, I want to take a swing at that. That's great. Go ahead and do that. I recommend checking out the Bambu Lab P1S. It's going to be a fully enclosed kit, so that'll keep everything in a much better position. You can attach the AMS module where you can have the multiple colors feeding in at once, and it'll automatically switch colors, all those cool new features. This one can do that. However, I only have the one filament spool. You have to buy that additional spool kit, which is arguably as big as this little package as it is. So I don't think I want anything bigger than what I got right now, honestly. So we're going to stick with the A1 Mini for now until I reach an impasse of, you know what, I have to have the next best thing and I can't move on without it. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with what I have here today. This guy's pretty sweet. You get 7 inches by 7 inches of 7 inches of print profile. Turn things on the diagonal, you get a little bit more length on things. But if you have questions about this guy or anything else, let me know in the comments below. I am not able to get an affiliate link for the A1 Mini itself, but I will have a link to where you can get it on Bambu's website. However, I am an Amazon affiliate, and I'll have links to the filament I've used, some of the accessories I've gotten, things like that. So if you have questions about any of those or you want links to those, check out the description below. But if you don't see what you're looking for, hit me up in the comments. I try to reply to all my comments, so make sure you hit me up if you have any questions. If you appreciated this video, please consider subscribing, and that is the Bambu Lab A1 Mini. I'll see you guys in the next video.